Hi, I'm Suzanne. Welcome to the Susie Sunshine channel. This is my first YouTube, so if you're new to me, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about looking at side hustles, passive income, to investigate, to try them out, to debunk, and find out whether there's a perfect side hustle for you. You might be over 50, have a full-time job like me, but you have lots of other interests and you'd like to make some additional income out of them. The idea is that we find something that you love to do that's going to make you some extra money. Then we're going to look at what do we do with that extra money. We're over 50, we're heading towards retirement. What's going to give us the best bang for our buck at this point in our lives? Is it going to be investments? Is it going to be Bitcoin? Is it going to be something else? What can we do with the money so that it multiplies for us? Today we're going to look at self-publishing, so let's jump straight in. Okay, so we're going to have a look today at writing a book and then self-publishing it on Amazon. It's something that I did last year. I wrote a book, I Choose Happy by Suzanne Miller. It's on Amazon and I published in September last year. So in order to do this video, I looked back at how did I approach this? What 10 steps did I take to get from the beginning of the idea of publishing to actually getting it live on Amazon? What did I do? So the first thing that you need to think about is whether you want to write fiction or non-fiction. I wanted to write non-fiction because I'd done an awful lot of investigation over the last 10 years about what makes people happy. How can you improve your happiness set point, as they call it? So how you feel day in, day out. Do you generally feel really cheerful? Are you quite sad? And if you're not feeling great on a regular basis, what can you do to improve how you're feeling? And I'd done loads and loads of research on this. I'd read books and watched videos and done courses, all sorts of things, and therefore I had this wealth of knowledge about how to improve your happiness. And it wasn't just knowledge, it was strategies that I use day in, day out, so they were sort of ingrained in my everyday life. So putting that down on paper didn't feel too daunting. You know, I thought I've got loads of ideas here, I'm easily going to be able to put them in a book. I'm going to write non-fiction. So step one, fiction or non-fiction, is the decision that you need to make. I am actually writing a second book at the moment, and that is a fiction book, and I'm about halfway through that. So I wanted to test out, is there any difference between writing fiction and non-fiction? So the first thing you want to do is think about, what do you know loads about? Do you have a topic that you love, that you've done lots of research on, that you feel really passionate about? Could you put that on paper for other people to learn from, for other people to enjoy? Do you have a vivid imagination and you're able to put all of those great imaginings on the paper and tell a story that other people are really going to enjoy? Step two is then, how do you structure the book? And I've gone about this exactly the same way for the I Choose Happy book as I am now doing for the book I'm writing. And what I do is I have a journal. This is the I Choose Happy journal that you can see, and basically in here are all the ideas that I had for the book. I just put them down on paper, scribbled them down. What was I going to talk about? What was I going to write about? What do I do on a daily basis that helps me to keep my happiness right up there? And I put all of that down, and then I started to structure it into chapters. So what was each chapter going to be called? what was I going to cover in each chapter, and I ended up with the skeleton structure of the book. I've done exactly the same with the fiction book. I actually know the story. I know exactly what's going to happen. I know my characters. They'd all been swirling around in my head before I even started to write it. And so therefore I was able to do exactly the same thing. I could literally name the chapters in my book and I could sort of progress the story. My story is quite linear because that's easier for me to write, and so I know exactly what the chapters are called and roughly what's going to happen in each of them. And then that enables you to not worry about what's coming next. You know, you don't start writing the first 2 pages and think, oh, what happens next? You've already mapped it out. You already have that skeleton you can refer back to, and you don't necessarily have to write them in that order. I know with I Choose Happy, I wrote the chapters in whatever mood I was in. If I felt like writing about my morning routine, then that's what I wrote about. If I felt like writing about meditation, then that's what I wrote about. Because they were self-contained chapters, they do refer to each other a little bit, but not enough that I couldn't write them in isolation. So that worked really well for me. If I was in the mood to write something, that's what I did. With the fiction book, actually I am writing it in a linear way, chapter after chapter, because otherwise I get lost in where I am in the story and I can't remember if I've told the reader about this particular little plot twist that's going to happen. So I'm writing it in a linear way at the moment, and then we'll see what happens in the editing process. Because probably at this point you've thought about what you're going to write about, you've put your structure together, you've probably come up with a number of chapters, you're starting to tell yourself you haven't got enough material. How are you going to find the time to write it? What on earth are you going to put in the chapters? This is where step 3 comes in, which is ditch the negative self-talk. Any kind of project that I embark on, I get really excited at the beginning and I start to investigate, I start to put my idea into action, and then I start to get doubts. Oh, am I really going to be able to do this? How long is it going to take me to do it? I need to do it by tomorrow. That's me. I need to do everything by tomorrow. And therefore the negative self-talk comes in and you end up immobilizing yourself and you're not able to continue because you've got this negative voice in your brain that's telling you you can't do it. So whenever that happens, it might be at this point, it might be further down the line, it might have been right at the beginning. You need to ditch that negative self-talk. In my view, everyone has a book of some description. There must be something that you know loads about, you know, especially if you're over 50. Let's face it, you know, we've had experiences, we know stuff. So all we're going to do is write that down. We're going to write it down. And then we're going to get some help to, you know, edit it and make it interesting and whatever we need to do to spice it up. That's what we can do at the end. But at the beginning, all we're doing is we're putting it down. So ditch the negative self-talk. Tell your brain to go away, stop criticizing. You're going to do this and just crack on. That then takes you to step 4, which is write the introduction. Now, I didn't write my introduction first actually for I Choose Happy because there were certain things in my life that I was doing day in, day out, and so they were really fresh in my brain. So I think the first chapter that I wrote for I Choose Happy was probably my morning routines and all the different strategies I have that I put in place at different times that helped me to gear up for the day and get excited about the day. And so I think that was probably the first chapter I wrote. But during the investigation that I did about self-publishing and writing in general, one of the things that a lot of people said was the introduction's got to be fantastic because that's what people read on Amazon. That's the first few pages that they get to glimpse before they decide to buy your book. So you need to make sure that that's really engaging. And actually, if you're doing this from scratch, then that introduction sets you up, particularly for a non-fiction book, you know, it sets you up for the rest of the chapters that are going to follow. What is your book about? Why are you writing it? And that helps you to progress on to the next stage. If it's a fiction book, then it's not so much write the introduction, it's write chapter 1, write chapter 1. And really the hardest thing I found with the fiction book was writing the first sentence, and I think I wrote that first sentence 100 times and I'm still tweaking it now. I'm not sure why, but you know, that first sentence, that first paragraph, and then once that was done, I was flying. And I think I wrote the first 3 chapters of my fiction book in a weekend. I got really excited about it and just got taken away with the story, and it all got going. I then got to a point where I'm halfway through. I haven't written anything in that book for probably the last couple of months. I've been looking at other projects, and so it's stalled a little bit. And I don't think it's negative self-talk, although there is a little bit of that in there for me, because I think in places I'm thinking, oh, this book is a little bit waffly, and, you know, are other people going to enjoy it? So basically, you need to keep going. Write the introduction, write the first chapter, and then keep going. That's step 4. So you've spent your precious time writing this book, and hopefully there's been some fun for you in it. I know I enjoyed writing I Choose Happy in the main, and I am enjoying writing the new book as well. So if you're in the right mood, you've enjoyed writing it, you've got to the end. Then you need to think about the editing. Obviously, you're going to read it yourself. Obviously, you're going to try and pick up as many typos as you can. But do you want to look at a professional edit? Now, I'm really fortunate in that I have a lovely sister who has lots of qualifications in creative writing. She actually has a PhD, so she is far more qualified to write a book than I am, and she very kindly takes my ramblings and edits them for me so that the end product is more professional for the person who's receiving it. And I guess if I had some advice for another writer who was doing this for the first time, it would be to consider spending a little bit of money on professional editing. You can go to websites like Fiverr.com and you can get some reasonably priced assistance with your editing, and you can be more confident that the book that you're putting out is more professional and the consumer is going to be more impressed with what they are paying for. So step 5 is consider professional editing. It's probably worth the money. Step 6 then is to set up your KDP account. So this is the Amazon publishing website. I will probably do a separate little piece on how to set up your KDP account, either in this video or in a separate video. But basically, if you go into Google and you search for KDP, it'll pop up straight away. You set up an account. It's no more difficult than setting up an Amazon account. You need to give them some details so that they can pay you, which is lovely. So you give them your bank details and what have you. They check those, and it takes a couple of days to get that account verified. So it's worth doing it at this point before you've got to the point of I'm ready to publish, let's go. You probably, once you've got through the writing and you've got through the editing and you're getting to the point where you're thinking about formatting and publishing, then that's the time to set up your KDP account if you haven't already got one. Step 7 then, formatting your book so that you can publish it on Amazon. So I did lots of research on this. I watched tons of videos, which actually I didn't need to do, because on the KDP website there is a really excellent user guide, and it shows you how to format for a hardcover book. It shows you how to format for Kindle, which is much easier. And actually, I published my Kindle book before I did the hard copy because it was just so much easier to do. You need to format the pages for your paper copy. You know, if you're going to print it, if you're going to ask Amazon to print it and send it to your customers, then you have to format it. You need to decide on the size, you need to set the margins, you need to set gutters. But as I say, there is a really excellent user guide. If you've got Microsoft Word, it really is fairly simple once you've read the guide. I wasted a lot of time watching videos actually on YouTube and various other places, and in fact it was all there on the Amazon site, and that's all I needed to know. So you have formatted your book, you've decided on the size of your pages if you're going to get them printed and sent to the customer, and now you need to create your book covers, so front and back. There's also the spine that you need to think about, and I actually went to a professional designer to do the book cover for I Choose Happy. I wanted something quite unique, and I am not the most visual person in the world. I'm not particularly great at design or graphics, so I got a professional to do that. There is actually a tool again on the KDP website where you can design your own cover. There are other web-based application sites that you can use for that, like Canva. So if you're any good at designing things yourself, then my advice would be do that. You know, it's going to be much cheaper for you to design your own cover. There are templates that you again can get from the Amazon site. Canva, for instance, knows how to do this, and it'll give you templates that you can then just pop your design into. So if you're looking to do this without spending too much money, then I would definitely say design your own book cover, but you do need to make sure that once you've done that, it's in the right format. So it has to be in a particular format, and it has to be the right size for the book size that you've chosen. So you need to do a little bit of investigation on the KDP site to make sure that you have formatted the book covers in the right way. And again, when I go through the setting up of the KDP account, I'll probably run through these types of things just to give you the technical detail on sizes and file formats and so on, and how to get your book published. Step 9 then is you publish. Really simple, very easy to do. Once you've got all your ducks in a row, it goes off to be reviewed, and that can take a couple of days. So you publish, you upload your book, and then it goes off into the world of Amazon, and they look at it and make sure that it's formatted correctly and it can publish correctly, it can be printed correctly, and then it goes live. It goes live on Amazon, and you can search for it and people can buy it, which is really exciting. The final step then is marketing. Now this one is quite interesting because I watched a video literally a couple of days ago that basically told me that all of the things that I'd done to market my book were completely wrong, and I'd made all the typical mistakes that everybody does. I am using the Amazon advertising, and basically when I did that initially, I was selling the book quite well, but the advertising costs were double the profit that I was making on the book. So that wasn't really ideal if I want to have an income out of this book going forward. So I'm now playing around with Amazon advertising again with the advice that somebody has given me, and I think the best thing I can say, and again I'll probably do a separate video on advertising in general and optimization and so on, is it's not an overnight thing. You can't just switch it on and sell hundreds of copies. You need to test it out, you need to start slow, put your advertising bids really low, try out all of your keywords to see which ones people are clicking on, and particularly actually if people are clicking on your link to your book and then not buying, you need to make sure that those keywords are blocked so that you're not spending money on advertising and people are clicking through, but actually your book isn't what they thought it was and therefore they're not going to buy it. So it's a learning process, and I'm actually going through that at the moment. So I will be putting more on marketing onto the channel in a few weeks when I've done a bit more investigation on that. So I hope that's been useful. I hope that's inspired you if you've got a book in you to get started. As I say, some of the areas we've covered high level, I will go into more detail in future videos. Coming up on the channel, the next side hustle that I'm going to be looking at is setting up an Etsy shop, so look out for that one. If you've enjoyed this video, please press the like button, subscribe, hit the bell so that you can follow my progress over the coming months on this channel. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again soon. So today is all about self-publishing. I actually published a book last year, which is here. Or are you a storyteller? Do you have a vivid is how are you going to structure the book? That was rubbish. Let's start again.